Welcome all of you. Welcome to the Catalyzing Nature Positive Action Through Biodiversity Credit, a holistic approach from the Global South. From Ser Carbono and Environmental Market Fairness Foundation, we welcome all of you. This event was designed and organized to generate a valuable exchange to explore the fundamental role of biodiversity in finding solutions to the global environmental crisis. We must understand biodiversity as the operating system of nature, analogous to the functioning of the operating system in our cell phone. Without the operating system, this smartphone will be dead. So that's why it's important, the operating system for nature. South America is home to 6 of the 10 most biodiverse countries on the planet. 6 out of 10 are in Latin America. For this reason, people of the Global South have much to contribute and teach us on the road to protecting the planet's most important biomes, such as the Amazon, the Atlantic forest, and the Gran Chaco Americano, among others. The contribution of biodiversity to the health and harmony of nature is essential. In January 2020, and this is very interesting thing, in January 2020, just maybe 3 or 4 weeks before COVID, that we all became familiar with the term COVID, in the framework of the World Economic Forum in Davos, a big consulting firm that for sure you all know them, said that 55% of the GDP depends of nature. And at that time, I wonder, why do they say that 55% depends of nature and the rest depends of what? We must, yeah, indeed. I mean, it was PricewaterhouseCoopers in the World Economic Forum. And the IDB that I used to work in Washington, D.C., they believe the same. I don't know what is going on with the other 45%, but we'll find out soon, I guess. We must understand that 100% of the GDP depends on nature because we are nature. That's why, because we are nature, and maybe sometimes we forget about that. No? If the air, if the water, and if the soil are unhealthy, so are we. Pretty simple, I guess, but sometimes looks complicated. Therefore, the urgency of addressing this crisis from a holistic approach reaffirms the need to consider all the interconnected aspects of the environmental society. The involvement of where all voices are heard stresses the importance of incorporating different perspectives and communities in the search for solutions. This panel is the result of the last decade to know and work within the biomes of our region, in our forest, our jungle. We had a clear mission with my team, offer solutions to those who protect our natural capital. I mean, the guardian of the forest. Being a minister, I was the first minister of climate change in the continent. Being a minister, we step away from the desk to go to the territory. That in Spanish sounds better because it's from del escritorio al territorio. So, as a minister, I left the desk and I went to the territory to listen what they have to say. And what they have to say, they have a mantra over there. They have a mantra in the Colombian jungle, in the whole Amazonas. They all have the same mantra. And the mantra is very simple. Conservation without money is conversation. So we aspire to create a path towards a future that is not only more fair, but also more respectful with our planet. Personally, I had the honor of being able to have a conversation with His Holiness Pope Francis. I learned of his commitment to integral ecology and love for our Mother Earth. It was an eye-opening to me, that contact, as you can imagine, with Laudato Si and Dear Amazon, an encyclical and a conceptual document. These documents transcend and include all three Abrahamic religions. So they are all in the same path, the three Abrahamic religions. This is not a matter about religion, this is a matter about Mother Earth. It was an eye-opening to have the chance to read his words in this. This is, I don't know if you read that, but this is Querida Amazonia, right? Querida Amazonia. This is very interesting conceptual publication that the Pope, put together. This connection between ethics, theology, and environmental conservations offer a path towards a sustainable and equitable future. And for this reason, we are pleased to have a presence. Venga, José Luis. We are pleased, you just arrived in the right time. For this reason, we are pleased to have the presence and profound knowledge of the Honorable Emile Secuda with us today. Her great expertise in relation to these issues positions her as an essential voice of the contemporary reflection. Or, as the Argentine press said, Dr. Cuda is the woman who best knows the thinking of Pope Francis. Welcome, Emilce, today. In building our ecological civilization, strategic partnerships are crucial. Ser Carbono has positioned as an international standard rooted on the ground experience in South America. Their commitment to transparency and integrity distinguishes them as a leader in understanding the fundamental of social and environmental safeguards. A great team of Latin American-born professionals who are carrying out a fundamental task. So I welcome friends and colleagues from Ser Carbono, Carlos Trujillo and Alex Saer. It was a pleasure to put together this event with them. We will also have today the valuable testimony of Drea Burbank, founder of Sabimbo. She's a key advocate for ensuring that benefits reach local communities, the guardian of our planet. Her expertise in climate resilience and nature conservation based on her work in the Amazons bring a crucial perspective to this event. This week, we talked to her, I think it was last week that we talked to her, Alex. She's watching us right now from the Colombian Amazon. So we say hello to her and to all the team, all the team from Sabimbo in the Amazon. As we move towards a just transition, achieving climate goals and halting biodiversity loss requires a significant financial investment efforts. That is why we are so pleased to announce that the World Economic Forum this January 2024 in Davos will focus in part of biodiversity and will be a key platform for world leaders to explore sustainable financial instruments. Private sector engagement is key to catalyze the biggest economic transformations since the Industrial Revolution. Today, we have the privilege of having Dr. José Luis Manzano, a businessman and entrepreneur with extensive knowledge in Latin America. José Luis is an investor in renewable energies, and his experience and vision in the emerging market related to the subject that concerns us will be very important. As a side note, for me, we are dealing with one of the most intelligent and well-informed businessmen in the region. Welcome, José Luis, to the panel. So, this is why we put together this panel. I am so happy, and for sure Ser Carbono is so happy to see all of you, because we have just 5 empty chairs. It's full. this session. And this is very important for us because all the work we did before. So thank you all, and I hope we have a good session this afternoon. Mayra?
Okay, thank you. I'm just here to give you a brief presentation of our panelists. So in the first place, we will share some visions and thoughts from Dr. Emilce Cura. She is the Secretary of the Pontifical Commission for Latin America at the Vatican, the ordinary member of Pontifical Academy of Social Science and Pontifical Academy Pro Vita, a Stellam advisor and professor at Loyola University of Chicago. She received 2 honoris causa doctorates in liberal arts from Loyola University of Chicago and humanities from National University of Rosario, Argentina. She received a PhD in theology and specializes in social moral theology. And the last book published was To Read Francisco, Theology, Political Ethics. She gives conferences and international seminars around America, Europe, and Asia and Africa. Emilce.
Thank you. Thank you so much. ¿Aprendido? Sí. Thank you so much for this invitation and to all of you for to be here. Of course, I am not economic. I am theologian, and a theologian, and as a person who works with Pope Francis. I am from Argentina. I am here trying to express how is this magisterium from this Pope from Latin America, especially from Buenos Aires, el Río de la Plata. And as Patricio told you, we have a document, Querida Amazonía, Querida Amazonia. And it's important to start with that because in this important document, Pope Francis speaks not about necessities of our people, but about dreams of our people. This is important because sometimes in the central countries, in the rich world, thinks that the only preoccupation of our people is what they need to survive to the next day. But that is not true. They are not pets. They are persons, human beings, and they have dreams too, not only necessities. So, when we think in social justice, or in this new sentence, justice transformation, justice transition, I invite to all of you to think that there we have people with dreams, not only with necessities. We are not pets, we are persons. According with that, Pope Francis published a social encyclical, Laudato Si, to take care of the common how. Laudato Si is not a green encyclical, it's a social encyclical. It's important to recognize that because there Pope Francis speaks about the grit of the people and the grit of the earth. But with the years, it's sad, but the environmental part of the crisis is hypervisibility. But the social part of the crisis is absolutely invisible. So the people speak only about the cry of the earth, but nobody think in the cry of the people. Latin America is a beautiful garden. It's a beautiful garden, but it's not a spa. It's not a spa. Our people need a lot of things, but special recognize that the rest of the world recognize them as people with dreams there. In this process, Pope Francis spoke a lot about how we can change this ecological crisis. And he said that the mood is the best politics. And the best politics for him and for us is the social dialogue. And a social dialogue is not a conversation between friends. A social dialogue is a conversation around a table between people who has different needs some and different interests others. For example, in the production relationship, a social dialogue is between workers and owners. But at the moment in our continents, we have more than the half of the people without work. And the cause of that is the system. And Pope Francis says this economical system kill people. So in this transition, in this to think how to resolve this problem, for some countries is the contamination, but for other countries is health, education, trafficking with persons. So I invite you how to think in this interesting mode that I am knowing now in these 2 days, how to think in the participation of our people in this process, how to invite them to the table. In Querida Amazonia, Pope Francis said the social dialogue is just if we put at the same level, at the same table, all the people to discuss the mode. And one proposal is how to invite to those people to understand this process that I am trying to understand, how compensate the problem of contamination with the problem of the poorest. And we have a network, Justice and Peace, between all the countries of Latin America, the church, the Catholic Church, and the base is in the CELAM, the Episcopal Conference of Latin America, and this network of Justice and Peace give to me a letter to read today. I am not going to read the letter, but the idea in this letter is that to control this process, carbon credit, no, is the name correct?
Yes.
They invite to you to think in the organized community, the local organized community taking part in the table of negotiation to control where is going that money. Because they think that in the central country, only think is then in necessities, but never in the dreams. So for that, the solution is obviously in education. How to introduce in our universities, in our academic dialogue, this new idea of a social environmental crisis. As you know, maybe 3 weeks ago, in the ILO, in the Assembly of ILO, was created a new global coalition. It's a coalition for social justice. That is new, and that involves a lot of countries. And the idea is how to think in the social justice and how to think in this ecological crisis, not only like a grid of the earth, but together, the grid of the earth and the grid of the poor, because everything is connected, as Pope Francis tells us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Milce.
Okay, so now our next speaker is Dr. José Luis Manzano. He's an Argentine businessman, as Patricia said. He possesses extensive knowledge in Latin America, public policy, and global emerging markets. He's involved in various sectors, including investment, media, energy, and mining industries. He supports educational organizations and charities and serves as president of Universidad de Congreso and collaborates with Nobel Awards Al Gore and the Clinton Global Initiative. He holds the position on committees and boards, including the Energy Steering Committee of the Institute of the Americas and the European chapter of the Eisenhower Fellowship.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. I will try to use 5 minutes to share how the private sector addresses these issues and what are the motivations to move on carbon credited sustainability or enter into a conversation on biodiversity. I see two main avenues for private sector to come into the thing. One is when the entrepreneurs or the organizations realize the situation. So it's like any other individual that is impacted by the situation, or the climate change, or the social inclusion or exclusion together with the climate change, or the younger members of the family. So that may trigger an entrepreneur or a businessman to get into the problematic of sustainability, or the problematic of from sustainability to carbon credits or to biodiversity credits. Then the second avenue is the traditional set of carrot and stick tools in any market economy or any semi-market economy can be deployed. Carrots are stimulus that come from governments, like, for example, the IRA law in the US, which is a huge stimulus to enter into a more sustainable path in business activity, or the stick come from penalties. And then when you see the balance between carrot and the sticks, the world has done a lot on the carrot side and very little on the stick side. And my view is that with little on the stick side, the movement will not be enough to reach the goals. I think there is more that has to be done on the stick side. More has to be done in terms of penalties and fines if we want it to really work. No, if I wear my business hat, you say, okay, penalties and fine will not do it, but the carrot alone are not doing it. The second thing is the imbalance of responsibility. And that is more up to the governments. No, when you see the situation, when you get the warming, the level of warming, and you go to the causes of the level of warming, the warming came mostly and fundamentally from already industrialized countries. Now, on the balance, developing nations have not had a chance to contribute too much to the disaster. Maybe we would have to contribute if we were having the chance, but we didn't have the chance. So more of the disaster came from the already industrialized countries. It's not a moral thing. We were not there. We were not ready. But now, a lot of the warming comes from coal-based energy systems. And the coal-based energy systems are all over the world. They are in Germany, but they are in South Africa, they are in India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, all over the world. So I believe coal without penalties will not work. If you see the last tendency, the big coal producers have reaffirmed their commitment to stay in coal. They have reaffirmed their commitment to keep exploring and producing coal and keeping the coal thermal units working. So that's proof that you need the stick. It's not only the carrot, because the incentive to get out of coal are there. But with the oil prices, people are considering the incentive not good enough, or even energy security issues, because there's a phrase from Hillary Clinton that says that many of the time she had to choose between bad and super bad. No, so they say that for policymakers, sometimes, for example, you ask me, Jose, how would you change the South Africa energy design? It's not easy. It's very coal-based. Cannot be done in a few years. It will take time. So it's a combination. So I go back and I want to finish what Emilce said. I think the biggest driver, the more effective driver, is convince the people. And to convince the people is through education, and especially educating the younger. Now, for example, like 5 years ago, we moved big into lithium. And we moved big into lithium because of my son. And since we moved from zero, we try to do it right. So we do a lot of local community involvement, and we have a decision not to work where the community doesn't like it. Even if there's a minimum discussion about it, we just walk away. We go somewhere where the people want it. But because in Argentina is huge amount of land available, so you don't need to work where the people do not like it or do not understand it. Maybe other countries don't have that option. I don't know. For us, it has been easy to work with the community because we decided not to work. Or, for example, we have an example. There is a lagoon with pink flamingos, no, and the technicians, they were saying, no, this is new here. It never was here, so this maybe is temporary. And I said, forget it. Just forget it. Just declare it. Preserve, go to the government, keep it on the side. Because it's extensive land. It's a very big country, so it's easy to do that. Maybe not everybody can do that. But the more effective tool is convincing people. If people understand that the threat is common, that the social consequences are for everybody, and that the solution requires everybody to act. And when I say everybody to act, I don't want to offend anybody. Using bamboo toothbrushes help, but will not change it. It will not change it. It helps, but it will not change it. It makes you feel better in the morning, but it will not change it. To change it is a lot of things that don't sound cool. It's minerals, if we want to transit to electric-based society. It is cutting coal. It is reducing fuel consumption by big fossil, reducing big. So it's costly, and it has to be done fast. Thank you very much.
Thank you, José Luis.
Okay, so the next panelist is Alex Sayer. He is an industrial engineer and political scientist, a Fulbright scholar for master's degree in sustainable development at the University of Maryland. He has more than 20 years of experience as a consultant and technical advisor in sustainability projects in the private sector. His expertise and work experience in the Colombian Ministry of Environment, designing and implementing public policies for the protection of ecosystems and productive sectors. He is representing and advising ministers in boards, committees, and multi-stakeholders exchange forums. He's a key developer and designer of the Colombian National Circular Economy Strategy, and he is a former delegate and board member of the OCDE's Environmental Policy Committee. As CEO of Cercarbono, he is in charge of strengthening and positioning the standard globally.
Thank you very much, Maria, and thank you everyone for joining us today. So we have key drivers and key motivations here for Cercarbono to develop our biodiversity program and our biodiversity standard. We in fact just heard about from Patricio about the biodiversity crisis, also from Emilce how communities should involve, and José Luis just reaffirmed the necessity of involving also and convincing communities on work towards changing our environment. So we in Cercarbono, we starting working on our biodiversity program based on these motivations, and we have some statistics and some info that you may recall, like this rate of special extinction is 10 to 100 times higher than the average over the last 10 million years. Up to 1 million species are threatened with extinction in the coming decades. Many issues that really show us like the crisis and the biodiversity crisis that many of us are talking right now. Also, some good statistics here. From 1917, there has been a 90% biodiversity loss, for example, in Latin America, 65% biodiversity loss in Africa, and we are seeing this is increasing at the same or even at higher rates when faced with climate change crisis as well. So we realized that one of the bottlenecks of conservation activities is also funding conservation activities. How these activities and these projects are being funded and how the money could be canalized through these kind of projects. As the experience of Desert Carbono working in the carbon markets, we started the conversation with some projects and project developers in the conversation side and started working with them on how can we put together and how can we learn from the carbon markets and put the same concept into the biodiversity markets. So we think that using the tools that we are using right now in the carbon markets into the biodiversity field can do and can mobilize finance through these kind of projects. So we started with our biodiversity certification program to allow biodiversity conservation projects to access new finance stream and markets. Also to emphasize the action on the ground with cost-effective monitoring and with a kind of validation and verification as is being done in the carbon markets. But I say kind of because we came up with a different view which I'm going to explain. So this program wants to covers many inputs or many it's been built around many inputs. First, we try to put a program which is flexible at the same time and rigorous at the same time. It's kind of difficult to be rigorous and flexible at the same time, but we came up with a program that could, you could develop projects in any kind of ecosystems. If it is terrestrial, if it is freshwaters, if wetlands, marine, urbans, or if it is a mixed ecosystem types. Also, this program tries to cover different biodiversity levels. If it is genetic, at the genetic level, at the species level, or at the ecosystem levels. But then, since we team up with project developer Sabimbo, which is right now on the ground, and they are working on the Amazon in Colombia, the community side is pretty important. And we also want to focus that this program should highlight the role that community has on conservation right now. So that's why we came up with also some variables into this program, trying to show that leadership that communities are being taken in conservation, or if it is externally led. Also, we are, with this program, we want to align this program with the reporting of global biodiversity targets and also with the SDGs. So we have many different activities into this program. The first one, like 4 groups: conservation and preservation, recovery and restoration, eradication of alien invasive species, and also sustainable use of biodiversity. And then I will give you some good insights about the program. We want this program to be, that the projects to be aligned with local, regional, national, and international biodiversity policies. So we encourage those who are developing the projects to align with those projects to the objective of the regions and the locals and the international levels. We try to build upon the tools that they are already there. And in fact, we are using a lot of IUCN tools to leverage this program. Also, we came up with a credit calculation for those area-based projects, and we give the space for those non-area-based projects to give some options on how to calculate the credits. The next one is really important. Even though we use the same project cycle as the carbon markets, we do a modification, and we are not using validation and verification bodies to validate and to verify those projects. We are using an expert panel committee in order to evaluate the projects. So since biodiversity projects are so specific, and they are specific to the location and to the geographical location as well, we want to come up with experts on those kind of biodiversity in order to analyze these kind of projects, from the pre-factibility side to the validation and verification as well. We are going to operate the project in an innovation phase first, because we want to learn also as Carbono and our different panel how all this is working. So we are going to have a 1 year in an innovation phase in order to have feedback from the community, from the experts, from project developers, in order to improve our methodologies and improve our protocol. This independent panel of experts and the innovation phase will allow for a sound program adjustment in line with the international developments in biodiversity markets. We have no comparisons right now. There are no biodiversity markets established right now. So we think coming up with this innovation phase will allow us also to understand and to learn about how to develop these projects. And we, in this protocol, we accept grouping projects. Projects can be grouped, but we are also accepting stacking with carbon initiatives allowed. So you can do a carbon project, and on top of that carbon project, you can do a biodiversity project as well. And finally, we are also implementing a built-in buffer, a guarantee buffer, and a long-term reserve. There are two different concepts, a buffer and a long-term reserve, to provide transparency and permanence assurance. It's important to highlight that these carbon credits, or this program, it doesn't see the carbon credits for compensation. It also sees the carbon credit for finance the implementation of biodiversity projects. It's not for those who impacts biodiversity in other sides of the planet to compensate with these credits. This is a market that is not, or as our view, is not going for us working this credit for that kind of compensation, is to canalize funding of biodiversity projects in this sense. So I'm going to invite Drea Burbank, Mayra. Drea is our partner, is a project developer, which is right now in the Amazon. She couldn't be here at COP28, and she's gonna go into specifics of the methodology. So Mayra, please.
Yeah, now we are going to see, as Alex stated, a video from Drea Burbank. She is the founder of Sabimbo. She sells fair traded biodiversity credit from small farmers and indigenous groups in the Colombian Amazon.
Hi, my name is Drea Burbank, and I'm here to present for Sabimbo. Sabimbo does fair trade climate credits. This whole story started because my friend Johnny has a jaguar in his backyard, and he started following it around with a video camera, and he stopped narco trafficking, became an environmentalist and a vegetarian. And I think you guys understand that if you start to study the outliers in our world, things, people who do things right, you can learn novel things than if you're just studying problems. So we started studying Johnny, and we were like, why did he do this? Just like all of his neighbors, I think we all wanted to know. And so we decided after about a year, I realized he did it because the jaguar was beautiful, it was wild, and it was bigger than him. And that's the way that I feel about our project, Sabimbo, because that's the way everybody at Sabimbo feels about our planet. We work in this patch of the Colombian Amazon. The Amazon is a big forest. It contains about 25% of the world's land carbon. And if we can't stop the deforestation, it's going to emit that into the atmosphere on top of the carbon that we already have there, which will be a planet killer. Pretty important problem. I'm here to talk to you today about our biodiversity credit because we think it's the best solution to stop deforestation. First, a little bit more about Sabimbo. Sabimbo was founded by 3 people. Johnny, who's formerly worked for the World Wildlife Fund. Me, I'm an MD technologist, and Fernando. Fernando is a 3rd-generation Colombian shaman. This is where we work. We work right on the border of deforestation, and we work on both sides of it. So on one side, we have indigenous small farmers with small plots of land, which have been mostly conserved by the farmers at an economic loss. And on the other side, we have large farming collectives, or sometimes indigenous groups, with big communal plots of land that are completely preserved. We need different actions for different sides of the border, and we have to make both groups happy if we want to stop deforestation. We also work with about 18 indigenous groups across the Amazon: Colombia, Ecuador, Mexico, Venezuela, Brazil, and Peru, and more coming every day. We have leaders in Africa and Asia also interested in our solutions. The reason is we made this solution specifically from and for them. I'm going to talk a little bit about why this solution works from your perspective first. So first off, if you're protecting primary forests through carbon, arguably there's a lot of debate about the science these days. But even if all the science perfectly worked, carbon would cost you about $100 per hectare per year for primary forest. Biodiversity, on the other hand, would cost you about $30 per hectare per year, and the locals would give 4 times more. So that presents 70% cost savings to the buyer and 4 times more for the locals. Why is that? Because biodiversity credits can be tracked and monitored with MRV from the locals themselves. One of the biggest topics I have for COP28 is the biodiversity unit. So our unit is for conservation, but our unit actually interacts and plugs into any other unit on the market. The unit is an area-based unit for ecosystems, so 1 hectare of area. It's a value for the ecosystem. In other words, the planet-wide value of preserving it. So that's platinum, gold, silver, or bronze. If you're in an IUCN red zone or biodiversity hotspot, then your planetary value of your biodiversity is way higher than if you're in the middle of the Arctic tundra. No offense to the Arctic. The last unit is integrity. What did you actually do? If you're corporate, you could have taken the biodiversity down with an unintended impact. Or for us, we're trying to prove with our metric that we preserved 100% primary ecosystem with total intactness. But some people are trying to raise the delta of their biodiversity. It really depends on your metric and methodology and what you're attempting to do. But you have to prove methodology. And the last thing is time. We split the time of the unit down to 2 months. That's because that's a price the market can understand. It doesn't necessarily mean that the methodology is going to take 2 months. It might take 2 years, but then you're just going to bucket up your 2 years into 2 months. So instead of getting 2 credits, you would get 12. One last thing about the value. So we took 14 schemas and flattened them all down into platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. That's IUCN, World Wildlife Fund, UNFAO, Holdridge, Ramsar, you name it. If somebody's categorized your ecosystem, you can take that value and put it into these terms, so that helps markets adopt this credit faster. There are people using this credit, and Cerro Carbono is probably the first in the world to certify a biodiversity credit because of this unit and because of their standards, which is simple, interoperable, and easy to use. Cerro Carbono has a huge asset in that they automatically list with Eco-Registry, which is all over the world. They're super collaborative. We're already selling pre-sales on Dobu and Senkin, which will then certify with Cerro Carbono and list on Eco-Registry. And then after we certify, we'll be listing automatically on Expansive and any other exchange that wants to list with Eco-Registry. There are so many things to talk about with biodiversity, but I'm going to keep it simple. Our biodiversity credit works in any ecosystem on the planet. Yeah, marine, it works in jungle, it works in forest, desert, savanna, you name it, it works. And here's why. We're not replacing the ecosystem. We're not doing a metric specifically for the ecosystem. We're using the animals that evolved in that ecosystem to measure the biodiversity of that ecosystem. So the animal becomes your sensor. The area of the animal, the home range of the animal, is automated into a circle, and it calculates, this is the range that the animal normally lives in. And their living ranges overlap to create a biodiversity credit, which is an area of protected land. I'm going to walk you through that a bit slower. So first up, every ecosystem on Earth has a sentinel species, an animal that represents the integrity of the ecosystem. In our ecosystem, that's about 53 different species, and they have an integrity score to show how much they represent the ecosystem. The majority of them have an integrity score of 1. Some of them are totemic animals. In other words, indigenous groups highly prize them, but the biodiversity science is a bit low on it, so they have an integrity score of 0.5. Then you get your data. Our methodology was written to accept any kind of data that's out there, but usually as long as it's primary data. So we accept video cameras, audio recordings, tagged animals, anything that can give you a geocode and a date timestamp for your animal. In our case, that's usually video cameras of jaguars. Then you calculate your data. So as I said before, each animal observed in the ecosystem that's a sentinel species has a home range. In other words, it has an area of land that it normally lives in. You can overlap those home ranges and then equalize them to show an area of protected forest. Our observations only last for 2 months because animals can't be assumed to be permanent. You have to keep finding the animal in order to keep getting credited. Here's an example of our data running over the last year in the Colombian Amazon. These are small farmers who protected their land, and jaguars, harpy eagles, even a bush dog found in the jungle, representing that the jungle is intact and integral. The best thing about biodiversity credits is that animals can show you a lot more than just carbon. Sure, you can overlay a carbon map and you can correlate the difference, but animals can show you below canopy integrity, water health, soil health, noise pollution, and hunting behaviors. It tells you a lot more about a conserved ecosystem. I think it's really cool that we've done this biodiversity credit, but I think the coolest thing is that in the Amazon, there is not a lot of institutional funding. In other words, for people in the Amazon to get funding, they really have to go outside the borders of the Amazon and get people around the planet to care about it. The Amazon is one of 9 planetary tipping points, and we've already crossed 6 of them. If we can solve for this, if we can find a better way to measure ecosystems in the Amazon and incentivize conservation behavior at the small farmer level, we can stop the deforestation in its tracks this year. This is where we're working in the Colombian Amazon. This method applies to the Brazilian and the Ecuadorian Amazon just as easily. Here's some videos of our jaguar collected, Johnny's jaguar, but actually now we're starting to get some friends. So we also have a jaguar from the Cofan in Ecuador across the border. You'll see him in a minute. Yeah, so jaguars aren't our only animals that we track, but we've noticed in the Amazon, they're one of the easiest ones to track because they're so indicative of primary forest. They're rare, sentinel, trafficked, culturally significant, all the good stuff. But we also do harpy eagle and bush dog, as I mentioned. I've talked to friends that are doing killer whales in the Arctic, people who are doing blue whales and a birthing site. We have people who are doing rhinos in Africa. This methodology really works for anywhere that local people need to conserve animals and be incentivized to participate in animal conservation. I think if you have one takeaway from this presentation, I would like you to take away the fact that I think locals can produce more. Traditional ecological knowledge is more valuable in the Amazon. The people who live there know the best about how to conserve it, and incentivizing them through a biodiversity credit is one of the best ways to get direct payments for climate action, because they can do the science themselves. That's it. Follow us on TikTok for more jaguars.
Thank you. It's a tornado.
Hi, my name is Ray.
It's amazing. Thank you. Fantastic testimony. Today is the health day in the COP, and we have 2 medical doctors in the panel. Mr. Manzano is a medical doctor, and also Drea, and also the people from the Lancet, the prestigious Lancet Countdown is here. I thank them to come here, and I thank especially the first meeting that I had when I was a minister. Diego Sáez de Pachama, thank you for coming. I'm now, just to close in this event, I'm going to introduce my friend Carlos Trujillo Echeverri, founder and chairman of Ser Carbono. He's a business administration with the MBA in Madrid. He has been in ventures in the area of e-commerce, technology, and environment, where he has developed commercial and market development functions. He's the founder of Ser Carbono, and is driving by a powerful desire of bringing solidity, transparency, and recognition into the carbon market. Carlos, your closing words.
Thank you, Patricio. Yes, like I was hearing this panel, and it's amazing, Patricio and Alex, what you both organized. And I want to start with Emilce, that I met yesterday. A wonderful woman, really intelligent. And today, talking about Querida Amazonia, we need to set a dialogue. And we need to set a biodiversity dialogue. And talking earlier, having the Vatican hosting this type of dialogue will be an honor and will be like a platform so that people can comprehend and they can be educated. Then that's a strong message that we can find from today. And thank you for being here, Emilce. Jose Luis, that I haven't met yet. It's a pleasure to have you here, your experience, your successful experience, and your passion about climate change. And it's impressive that during your journey, you're focused on climate change and climate change investments, like renewable energies. You also talk about the coal-based energy systems, and that we need to find a balance. And it's really important that the big businessmen, companies in the world, and also the governments, that they have a balancing responsibility. Then this was a huge message from Jose Luis, and we invite everyone, because this is going to be also a personal balance, so that we can have a better world for our kids. Jose Luis, thank you for being here, and I'm going to continue with Drea. That she's amazing. Drea, I've met her for the last couple of years. Drea is, as Patricio say, a tornado. She's an especially knowledgeable person in biodiversity. She's a passionate, and it's nice that she thought that with this methodology, we could have an inclusive methodology with all the ecosystems. Then this methodology that was created by Sabimbo, it's really inclusive. And it's nice to have inclusivity and biodiversity with this program that Ser Carbono launched. And Alex, your work has been amazing. Launching this protocol before the COP, it's really nice that we can be in this panel and that you can talk about this innovation being made by Ser Carbono. And we invite all of you to please make comments, because the comments from every person are really valuable, and that's what Ser Carbono can improve after the public consultation. Then thank you, Alex. And lastly, Patricio, I'm a fan of you, really good friend, and I'm really thankful for you for the idea of this panel, because this panel was the idea of Patricio for this COP, and I made like some special notes. And you're the biggest supporter of biodiversity for the Global South. Actually, I can say that you're a guardian of the Global South, and you're the voice in Europe for the Global South. And I want to thank you today, because your job has been amazing, and that's what makes a real change. Then thank you, Patricio. And I want to conclude with the phrase that I most like about you. Conversation without money, conservation without money is conversation. Then let's support biodiversity, and let's support the climate change. Thank you.
Thank you all. For me, it was a dream, because Carlos is right. When I thought about putting together a biodiversity panel, the first one I called, it was Carlos. And then I said, what is the dream team to have? And I said, in the private sector, it has to be Jose Luis. They said in terms of the territory, it has to be Sabimbo, Carlos said. And in terms of someone who can help us to see the big picture and to think is why we invite Emilce. So thank you all. I believe this is the biggest meeting that AITA has here. And thank you all for show up. Thank you. Thank you.
Just a little thing. You can the last one, the previous one.
This is important.
You can go into our website. Here's the protocol to make comments into our protocol. You are more than welcome to make comments, and you will receive like to improve our own protocol. Thank you very much.
We have last word.
1 second.
Yes.
We do have a fund that is for carbon credit, but easily can fund also biodiversity programs if they are certified and are measurable. So that's to go to the no money only talking. That's okay. So there is a fund that we can tap easily if we have a program that is monitored and certified.
So we have an announcement here. Emilce, if you want to last word, is yours.
Don't forget the poor, please. in the world there are animals, plants, and persons too.
Thank you all, and we already have a new commitment, so we applaud that.